break up the NFC East. Show us the tiers.
Thank you.
NFC East no longer its own category. We have instead, there at the bottom, a race to the bottom. The 5 worst teams in football, those teams will not win another game all year unless they play each other in games. Those are going to be your first 5 picks. Next tier, the Red Zone channel. Why do I call these teams the Red Zone channel? Not because, whoa, hold on. Whoa, can we go back? Y'all going too fast. Red Zone is because, not because they're going to be in the Red Zone often, but because you're only watching them if you're watching Red Zone, except for the Chargers, who Justin Herbert gives you a reason to watch. Not dead yet. Every single team on this tier faced a must-win game this past week. And you know what they did? They won it. So not dead yet, all those teams, including 2 NFC East teams that are actually up the rankings in Washington and the Giants. Now we can zoom in, folks. Wild card weekend. These 6 teams are all fighting for a playoff spot. They are fighting to be included in Wild Card Weekend. Unfortunately for them, for all those teams, that is probably the ceiling of their season, with the one caveat being maybe the Ravens turn it around. Can't totally trust. 3 of these teams, you can't totally trust their quarterback. That's the Bills, the Rams, and the Browns. One of these teams, I just can't totally trust their overall toughness. That's the Packers, but their records demand and their performance demands they be included on the upper echelon. And now we get to the real cream of the crop. No obvious weakness. It's not a surprise to see the Saints there. It's not a surprise to see the Seahawks there. It was a surprise to me when the committee put the Titans there. And I said, guys, the obvious weakness has to be Tannehill. The committee made me look at Tannehill's numbers since he took over for the Titans. They said, Nick, the sample size is now 25 games. Almost, you got to give the guy credit. And I said, you know what? You guys have swayed me. Titans get no obvious weakness. Steelers remain #1 contender. They haven't played since the rankings last came out because of the COVID fiasco with the Ravens, and the champs stay the champs. It is the latest edition of Nick Wright's Tiers. I don't know who wants to, congratulate the committee first. Brandon, you go ahead. I assume there's no issues here.
Yep. Congratulations, committee. This is probably the closest you guys gotten it. But there's one thing off. I want to go to this tier with the Seattle Seahawks, where they really don't have a weakness. Look, Nick, I want to take a page out of my buddy Wild's book. He sat on the table for a few weeks petitioning the committee to move the Colts up, and it didn't work. It didn't work. So I'm going to try to do the same for the Seattle Seahawks. There's 3 reasons why they should move up, Mr. Committee or Team Committee, whatever you guys go by. Russell Wilson's ball security. We hear Wilds and Jenna say it all the time. Ball security is job security. Yours and ours, right? There we go. So, look, after that tough stretch, Russ has 0 picks in the last 2 weeks. For that reason, we should move them up a tier because Mr. Wilson is dangerous when he protects the ball. Also, revitalized defense. These guys were the walking dead. You get Adams back, Snacks and Dunlap are back in the fold, and since week 10, they're only allowing 20 points and less than 320 yards a game. They have 3 sacks in the last 5 straight games. 3 sacks in 5 straight games, excuse me. So for that reason, when you look at this team being extremely bad on defense, historically bad, you got to move them up, committee. And then they're battle-tested. Some teams go through rough stretches and they just break and they fold. And then there's some teams that come out better. They're battle-tested, Nick. They went through it. And now they're on the other side stronger. And they have the easiest remaining schedule in the National Football League. For these 3 reasons, I petition the committee to move them up a tier. Russell Wilson, no longer turning the ball over. That is done. That is not his thing. That was just a little trend. Revitalize defense and battle test it. Move them up, please, committee.
These are all great opinions. And the Seahawks have been, after plummeting a bit, steadily moving up. They are now alongside the Saints. Remember, the Saints had been up alongside the Steelers. But as the committee, this was where I let the committee push me on the Titans. I pushed the committee on the Saints. They said, why would we move the Saints down? They just won 31-3 or whatever it was. And I said, no team that is starting a tight-ended quarterback can be the #1 contender. So we moved them down alongside Seattle. So Seattle kind of moved up by default because they're next to the Saints, co-top teams in the NFC. The reason that I can't have them higher is because while the defensive turnaround has been impressive, just need to see a little bit more of it. But we're not calling it an obvious weakness. We put them in the no obvious weakness category, so the team that had the worst pass defense ever has now moved up. I feel, listen, one could argue I've got the Seahawks ranked 3rd or 4th in the NFL. Right, we just need to see a little more.
But Nick,
just a little more before you elevate.
We were talking about them being the best team in the National Football League and having Russell Wilson as the MVP. He was the clear-cut MVP for 6-7 weeks in a row. He fixes his turnover problems. The defense, they're revitalized. They're no longer the Walking Dead. Come on, you got to put them up there, Nick.
No, these are all fair points. The only thing I'll take issue with is you said we were talking about them being the best team in the football league. That's Brandon and the mouse in his pocket, because the we talking to you right now was never a part of that, because the best team in the league has been #1 on the tiers every single week of the tiers. Wilds, your take on the latest edition?
Well, good day, everyone, and it's welcome to the committee. It is I, Kevin Wilds, here again to petition the committee. I've seen that my committee petitions fell on very kind ears as the Steelers moved up, and even though the Colts played terribly, they still remain the same. I have come with a new petition. On this piece of parchment, I hereby declare that the committee should move up the Washington football team, I almost got the name wrong, Washington football team, for the reasons contained henceforth. Reason #1. Do you know what team has the best pass defense in the entire National Football League? That's right, Washington football team. That is led by, of course, their front 5, Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Only the Steelers have more sacks or a better sack rate. They make everyone's job easier. They put so much pressure on the QB. #2, the fantasy football stud, an offensive rookie of the year. He's going to take it from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. My guy Antonio Gibson has touchdowns in 5 straight games. Only Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry have more rushing touchdowns this year. Did you know that? Most people did not. Reason #3, you want a team to root for? Think with your heart, too, not just your head. It's both. Combination. Old Alex Smith and Ron Rivera. They know how to win. If they get into the playoffs, they can make some noise. Only 4 quarterbacks have more wins than Alex Smith, and those people are since 2011. Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, and Russ. Then it's Alex Smith and Ron Rivera. Only coach out there has won 2 Coach of the Year awards. Is that stat 100% accurate? Hold on 1 second. Let me check, because Dusty just gave it to me. Stand by. 1 of 3 active head coaches. Excuse me. Accuracy is of the foremost importance to the committee. So, Nicholas, I hereby declare and demand that you move up the Washington team 2 spots, please. Good day.
And they tug at your emotional heartstrings, Nick. 2 great stories on that team.
I could give a long list of reasons why you can't raise Washington higher. Instead, I will simply say 4-7, as is their record. We think we are giving Washington enormous credit for what they could be because of Alex Smith now being the starting quarterback, because of Ron Rivera. But every team above them has 6 or 7 wins in the tier above them. So you can't have a 4-7 team join them there. Now, I do think, as I said last week, that they're going to win the division. And if they get the Bucs in the first round, I think because of the pass rush, they beat the Bucs. But the Bucs are going to the playoffs. Washington is still fighting with the Giants for the division. So I think this is being nicer than the committee needs to be to Washington. The culture, and by the way, the committee, while allows... What about Colt McCoy?
I said not
What
with
about
Colt McCoy. They're not battling for the division once Colt McCoy leads the
I got you.
Giants
With the Giants. I understand. By the way,
the Colts. I talk a lot about the Colts, so I understand. Multiple Colts.
No, that's fine. The committee, Jenna, has always had a policy of allowing, open time for anyone to petition the committee. But that particular gentleman from 1776 is working on a ban because he had been petitioning for the Colts. They fell flat on their face, and now he immediately has abandoned them like a child he no longer wants and has tried to pull on our heartstrings by the coach who overcame cancer and the quarterback who overcame a near leg amputation. The committee understands what the gentleman from the Northeast is doing, and it's not falling on deaf ears, but it's also not taken in very kind light, Jenna. We just want him to know and to consider for next week.
I love it. I say lean even further in. All right, Nick, we got 3 games to watch in Week 13 that have the potential to affect the balance of tier power. You got you got Saints, Falcons. You got Browns, Titans, Rams, Cardinals on the docket. What do you want to see in these 3 games to shake things up in your tiers?
Well, to me, and I know we don't have a ton of time here, it's just something for you guys to consider. If the Browns beat the Titans, will this show put some respect on their name? If the Browns beat the Titans and would have then beaten the Colts and the Titans, 2 teams that folks on this show have said are sleeper contenders in the AFC. If the Browns do that to get to 9-3, will we finally remove the asterisk from their record? That I'm curious about. And are the Cardinals going to fall all the way out of the playoffs? They lose again with Minnesota and San Francisco.